Okay, let me be honest. Aston Villa won, Brighton 0. Not the game of the century, especially where Aston Villa is concerned. Let's just say Villa managed to get the job done at Villa Park. And as the true saying goes, or the true saying says, it doesn't matter how it gets there, they all count. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when I upload new content. Right, all the formalities out of the way, let's get straight into it. Not Aston Villa's best performance, but hey, doesn't matter how they get there, they all count. Okay, let's get into it. Aston Villa 1, Brighton 0. This is my match reaction. But before we get into that, thank you for clicking on this video. And you're watching Astonished with me, Dre. I'd like to go through a couple of things that I think is quite important as an Aston Villa fan, where the gameplay is concerned, and maybe tactical moments that we can kind of look at as a whole. But let's go through a quick match reaction. My feeling, my gut feeling is that Aston Villa, even though that wasn't historic Aston Villa, legendary Aston Villa, prominent Aston Villa, they still managed to pull out a result. And this is the key thing. Anyway, it was a hard fought game. Aston Villa managed to grind out the result at Brighton, against Brighton, not at Brighton, at Villa Park. And I think Aston Villa really done well, showing grit, passion, dedication, and commitment to getting the result over the line. There does seem to be a discord, for lack of better words, between the attacking front of Aston Villa, from the midfield going forward. The connection is broken. With David Luiz coming into Yuri Tielemans' role and doing fairly well, I would say, really doing well. I feel like the bond between Onana and Luiz is not quite there yet, but I think it is growing. And that's the positives. And that's something that when I looked at the game last night, it didn't seem like there was a good connection there personally. Each individual, I think, done a decent job to kind of get into their respective areas and their designations and fight their way through. It wasn't easy because Brighton's tempo and their press was quite hard at a lot of times. In actual fact, Mings, Konza, Bogart, as well as Matson, I think they had a bit of a hard time playing out from the back. Not as bad as I thought it. I don't think it was that bad, but they struggled with playing out from the back. But getting the ball to Luiz and getting the ball to Onana seemed to be a bit difficult. And then obviously the transition into the forwards, your Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins. And so I am pleased to also see the performance of Jadon Sancho. Sancho seems like it's starting to click for him. I don't know how you're feeling about it. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts in terms of the match reaction. What did you think about Morgan Rogers and Jadon Sancho? I think they're starting to link up quite effectively. We've seen it at Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium. There was a quick 1-2, quick pass, through ball, and they seem to be connecting the dots much more easier compared to Ollie Watkins, reading the game from a Jadon Sancho and Morgan Rogers perspective. Holistically, I did think that there were moments in the game that showed Aston Villa's on the up. I think we're starting to get the form back little bit by little bit. And I'm glad that we're playing through this patch. Let's call it a bit of a bad patch. I don't think we're defending necessarily bad. Yes, the goal that Luka Dean, we conceded, Luka Dean could have done better at the Vitality Stadium. I understand against Bournemouth, but I think we're not necessarily doing that bad. But we are very much reliant on Emi Martinez, and he's been so outstanding in these past two games against Bournemouth, as well as in actual fact this whole season. But specifically also last night, where he gets his fingers onto the ball and it literally touches the crossbar. But you could see, based on the camera angle, looking at it from home, and okay, yes, I'm looking at it from a home perspective. He literally touches it, and if he doesn't touch it, that's probably just going under the crossbar. It might be in. So he's really been playing a pivotal and critical role for us, and we're so grateful to have such a fantastic goalkeeper in our midst as an Aston Villa team. It was the introduction of Allison, his first Premier League fixture game at home at Villa Park, and I think he got a decent reception. There wasn't much telling in terms of what he can do, but you could see that he has quite a presence on the field. He's a big guy. He's quite tall, it seems like it. But when I look at him, and every time I see him, it seems like I'm looking at Morgan Rogers. I don't know about you. How do you feel about that? When I look at him on TV, it's like I thought it was Morgan Rogers doing that, and then it's Allison. So I need to kind of maybe get better spectacles, better glasses to have a look at this thing. But they look so similar in terms of structure, and what you see on the TV specifically. But I'm excited to see what this youngster can do, and I think with a lot of game time, him obviously being built into the Emery way of things will gradually come to fruition and hopefully connect the dots. So we're missing key players. Boubacar Camara, Yuri Tillemans, John McGinn, and now also Matty Cash. I don't know if it is. I still foresee the next couple of games that we have. FA Cup, Newcastle at home. We should be putting on a top performance. But I think the longer the squad plays together, the better it will probably get. I just want to be able to see Tammy Abraham come on the pitch a bit more earlier. I feel that his injection of pace, his physicality, and his thinking is different to Watkins in a lot of probably in a lot of different areas, and I want to see that diversity come through in our strike group. And I think the more he gets a chance to play up front and starts games now moving forward, even though Ollie Watkins is probably Emery's preferred striker, I think it gives the opposition something else to think about, even though they are quite similar in terms of role and what they kind of do. But the physical structure of Tammy Abraham and his length, I think, kind of does something in the Premier League that we might be missing. And also, Ollie Watkins has not really been pulling the trigger effectively. He's not been really scoring. So I think Tammy Abraham coming in, playing alongside Morgan Rogers and a Jadon Sancho kind of helps him unite in the team specifically and sees how the team plays in game, in game, and not just on the training pitch. Look, we got the 3 points. I'm so happy and I'm pleased with that. And I think for us to pull off a result at Villa Park, even though it was scrappy, shows a lot of grit. And I would also say the passion of the Aston Villa fans. And Tyrone Mings having his 200th appearance, managing to get something at the end of that cross, and it eventually touches the, yes, he didn't score the goal, but we still celebrate it as he actioned that goal. Is such a reward for him because he's such a legend of the club. I'll put it, he's a legend of the club. I mean, he's really put in some awesome minutes for Aston Villa. Has been such a tiger for Aston Villa, and I'm hoping that for the next year or 2 years, we can still get a good sense of Mings on the pitch itself. So overall, it wasn't really a good game, but the result is what matters. And as Aston Villa fans, I'm sure you'd agree with me that walking away with 3 points is much more than is. And I'm sure you'd agree with me that walking away with 3 points at Villa Park is ultimately the goal, isn't it? We want to make sure that we keep the distance between third and fourth on the table, fifth and sixth as well, because they're quite close. Your Manchester United's, Chelsea's, as well as Liverpool. And Manchester United drew, and Chelsea drew. And that is fantastic results for Aston Villa. It keeps the pressure also on Manchester City, where they have to ensure that they're winning to keep Arsenal keep Arsenal honest in terms of their points, so that we make sure that we try and solidify that top three, top four as quick as possible. There's a couple of good games coming up. I would back us to go to Wolves and get the point. I don't think it's going to be easy because when I remember Wolves coming to Villa Park for our first Premier League game, that was a challenge and it felt like a heavy derby on the field itself, making it quite difficult for Aston Villa to break down Wolves through that centre and the midfield. And with the absence of McGinn, Tillemans, and Kamara, we might be in for a serious difficult time at Wolves specifically. So that's much of that's a wrap. I mean, taking away 3 points, we singing kumbaya as Aston Villa. That's the most important thing. We got the result. We got the job done. It wasn't pretty. It was quite ugly, but it's done. It doesn't matter how it gets there. They all count. Right. So this weekend, Newcastle game. Stay tuned for my match reaction post the game. My match prediction, I think and I feel that Aston Villa will pull this off and will get a victory at Villa Park. Woe to me if I'm wrong. I hope not. But in any case, thank you very much for clicking on this video. Once again, hit that like and subscribe button. In actual fact, smash the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.